Everybody is so excited because this is the first time you've probably gotten to see everybody in person. So if I could just ask those in the back to please have a seat and we'll get the program started. Boy, it's quiet now. All right, good morning. I'm Richard Rhodes. I'm the Chancellor of Austin Community College and also the past chair of the Trellis Foundation Board. So I would like to welcome you. One of the things is Kristin wrote a script for me, and she said, will you please stick to the script? So from this point forward, I will try to do that. So good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to kick off the Trellis Foundation Biennial Summit on Postsecondary Access, Affordability, and Attainment. You are now sitting in the home of the past Victoria's Secrets. If you didn't know, this used to be Highland Mall. It is now Highland Campus for Austin Community College. So we'd like to welcome you. We do, just for your information, if you happen to be in town, on April the 22nd, we're having a ribbon cutting for phase 2 of the Highland Campus, which is what you're in right now, and quite a bit of other space that we've got. And then on Saturday, April the 23rd, we're actually going to have an open house for the public and the community to come in and browse around and see what's here at Highland Campus. So I'm particularly honored to welcome you to the Highland Campus for this event. This facility reflects a reimagining of educational space, requiring exceptional vision. Thank you, Kristin. Commitment and creativity to convert a former shopping center into what you see today. And we're not done yet. You'll see incubators, the galaxy's largest accelerator, simulation centers, and other state-of-the-art learning facilities and spaces. And we're not done yet because we still have the memorializing of what's called St. John's Baptist Association Encampment Commons. And if you ever get a time, you need to read about the history of what used to be Highland Mall and its past, because it was owned by the St. John's Baptist Association, a black church association here, and it also had an orphanage physically located on this. And used to have people from across the state and actually across the country who would converge here on this encampment to have camp meetings, which were really educational meetings and spiritual meetings. And so if you get a chance, go up on the second floor in the Paseo and you can read about the history of St. John's and what this historic site used to be. In considering our agenda today, it is particularly fitting that we are meeting in a transformed, did I just say that? So I'll skip down. I know the right folks are in the room today to make this vision a reality. So to that end, I'd like to recognize several attendees representing our elected officials. And I think we have two here. So we've got Daniel Warner from the Office of the Speaker, Dade Phelan. So is Daniel here? Daniel, thank you for being here. And also Olivia Liu from the Office of Senator Judith Zaffirini. Good to see you. And did I miss any other elected officials representing? Okay. So, and what's your name? Kelly Peters? Okay. Glad to have you here, Kelly. So, in addition, I'd like to acknowledge my fellow Trellis Foundation board members, so if they could please stand. Why? Okay. And finally, any of my fellow Trellis Company board members in attendance, would you also please stand? And And as I look around the room, it's great to see a cross-section of K-12, 2-year, 4-year, nonprofits, policymakers, and founders in the room today. As a community college chancellor, I can attest to the importance of collaboration among all of us if we're truly committed to educational attainment for all students. Specific example from ACC is the elimination of gaps between different institutions and types of institutions. So we look at the elimination of gaps and the merging together of K-12 with community college, with universities, and taking a look at how do we make that happen. And we can do that through such things as dual credit, early college, high schools, P-TECs, but it's also working together in co-educational development between community colleges and universities, as well as taking a look at how do we help our students fund their education. It's through scholarships, it's through paid internships, it's through the ability for them to go to school but also earn a living for their families. So a lot is going on and a lot of support services that are absolutely critical and necessary to the success of our students. In the same way, Trellis Foundation has partnered with so many of you who are here today. And as board members, we have the privilege to review the proposals and to keep up with the progress you make toward your shared goals. We know that together we're making progress, but there is a fierce urgency, and especially after the last couple of years, to do even better, especially in ways that recognize and build on the strengths students bring to us, and that reflect the needs of goals that they want to achieve their dreams. On behalf of the Trellis Foundation board and staff, I'm grateful to you all for being here today, and especially for your willingness to learn and work with us toward greater access, affordability, and attainment for the students and families that we all serve and that we all love. We look forward to learning along with you today and in the good work ahead, and say thank you and welcome to the podium, Kristin.
Thank you, Dr. Rhodes. And for those of you who know me, you know I'm an extreme introvert, and it was a huge temptation for me to leave a mask on and pre-record this entire section of the program and just let it roll and do a little hand gesture here and there. But I can't do that. So I do want to say that as it is a tremendous privilege to lead the Trellis Foundation and to have been involved with its predecessor through Trellis Company and TG since 2005, I think we started making grants. It's a journey that has been so rewarding for us, for the state of Texas, for students and families across the state, and to see so many of you here today in the room that I know we've worked with during all of that time is just, I just can't quite take it all in. So thank you very much for being here today. I also want to begin with a note of gratitude and acknowledgement for Dr. Rhodes' service as the founding chair of Trellis Foundation's Board of Directors. He started that in 2017 when the foundation launched, and in the spirit of true servant leadership, Dr. Rhodes set the direction and expectations for all that we do, and we could not have asked for a better leader, and continue to benefit from his vision, wisdom, and insight as he continues in his service on the board. So I would love another round of applause for Dr. Rhodes. And I also want to just say, I'm really glad you're here. You are off mute. You have probably zippers and buttons and shoes that don't have any possible maybe nylon involved. So thank you so much for turning out and showing up. This biennial event builds on the conversations that we've had and are having with nearly all of you in the room. And it's been humbling to look at the registration list over the past couple of weeks. It's our hope, above all, that you hear today some of your thoughts and reflections in the comments and in what the panelists have to say. but also that we're challenged together to reimagine what it truly means to support students and to care about their opportunities as well as their outcomes. It's a broad mission, and there's room for all of us in it, and we're enthusiastic to share it with you. In a more immediate context, I do want to call out my colleagues on the Trellis Foundation staff. Jenny Achilles, who's in the room as well. She's our Chief Program Officer. Megan Beadle, the Grants Administrator for Trellis Foundation, and Diane Leal, who could not join us today, who serves as our Program Officer. All of them made this event happen while continuing the day-to-day operations of the foundation. And that's it. That's the foundation team. So that's a lot. And I really appreciate their help in making this day happen. And one of the reasons that a 4-person team can pull any of this off is due to the support that we continue to receive from the Trellis Company, our sister organization and founder. Trellis Company runs now under the leadership of Dr. Deborah Cromie, who's in the room today as well, and her team. And I would like to just give a special note of thanks to Donna Fritz, who serves as VP of Marketing and Communications, and her capable team who are overseeing a lot of the details happening today. And speaking of which, there are a few housekeeping items that I need to point out. First, your name tags include the designation of staff on there. If you are looking for information, directions, resources, look for someone who has a staff designation on their name tag. That's an easy way to find that out. Next, you'll see that there are some note cards available on the tables in front of you, and those are to record questions that come up during any of the panels today. And we will be collecting those at a certain point during those panels to be handed off to the moderator. So feel free to use those cards, or feel free to just take some notes on your own and use them for follow-up later. If we aren't able to get to your question and you would like us to follow up with you, feel free to put your name on that card as well, and we can do that after the event. I also want to just make a quick note of the materials on the lower table that's outside here in the foyer. You'll find some mementos to take with you and some copies of the most recent research reports from Jeff Webster's team at Trellis Company. Their work on student financial wellness and the state of student aid in Texas are often incorrectly attributed or credited to the foundation, and we graciously accept that credit on their behalf. But we absolutely are the beneficiaries of that work, and their research, along with the experience and expertise that Trellis Company's Project Success team under the leadership of Brian Ashton and his capable team have gained through their support of minority-serving institutions in Texas and across the South, have really informed the work and thinking that we use in thinking about our priorities and the work that we continue to fund. So we're especially grateful that we can align our efforts with theirs, and all of that speaks to why we're here today. So when the foundation launched in 2017 as an independent organization, we knew that the Trellis TG legacy would always be rooted in advancing post-secondary completion. The foundation board and staff took up the strategic planning process in 2020, right after everything shut down. So we virtually convened with the board to come up with the strategy that we currently follow. So we'll transition to this slide. I will point out that we got a lot of help from folks in the room today, as well as Jeff Cohen, who's here from FSG, and his team in developing and talking through what the strategy for the foundation should look like going forward. Through that process, we've organized our work under 3 strategic pillars. They're pictured on this slide. And all of the work under these pillars is filtered through a lens that acknowledges that talent and potential are distributed equitably across the population. However, access, opportunity, and support are not. Our grants are beginning to reflect the framing of this plan, and I'd encourage you to take a look at the posters in the lobby that we will also move outside during our reception after the event. The posters summarize some of the current work in our portfolio, and additionally, as an example, we've designed last year's RFP on reskilling and upskilling to align with the returning learners pillar, and this year's RFP focuses on student mental health and well-being under the holistic supports pillar. Applications for that are due on March 30th. If there are a few of you still working on that in the room, we'd love to see those applications come through. So here we are in the present tense, having seen what we've seen over the past 2 going on 3 years. The question of worth and value for higher education is hyper real for a variety of reasons. I think particularly relevant to the decision making that needs to happen in Texas in the coming months. So I'd like to share some of the thinking and data that have shaped our perspectives leading up to today's event. So first slide, I can't go any further without expressing gratitude, thanks, and appreciation and admiration for the Post-Secondary Values Commission work that is supported or was supported initially, and it continues to be supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We have several representatives from the Gates Foundation in the room. This particular work opened up the important questions with amazing leaders in the right moment to elevate the themes that we're talking about today. And in particular, their intentional focus on equity and implications for both education and workforce systems is striking, as is the development of the analytical tools from Dr. Troutman at the UT system. And we'll hear more about that in our opening panel, but the reports and tools are well worth your time if you haven't already discovered them. Next, a word about the urgency in Texas. And thanks to our friends at the Texas Tribune for highlighting this recent census data. So 95% of our state's population growth comes from Texans of color, a growth of 16% from 2010 to 2020. Hispanic Texans were responsible for half of that increase. So this is a snapshot of who we are. This is our Texas family photo at the moment. And while we need to be better and do better at serving the students who are the present and the future of Texas, we have a place to start. We have some amazing institutions, 2-year, 4-year, public and private, that include 97 Hispanic serving institutions and 9 HBCUs, many of which are consistently nationally recognized for high rates of success, supporting students to and through graduation and boosting the social and economic mobility of their graduates. The expertise, I truly believe, is already here. We just need to support and grow those strategies. Okay, on to the scary slide. I have 2 scary slides, and I'm reminding myself of being in those meetings with E3 Alliance. Are they here? Anyway, this is like an E3 thing. Our direct to college enrollment rates in Texas have been flat to slightly declining over the past several years, but the rates for high school graduates matriculating dipped considerably for the class of 2020. There are a couple things to consider here. Obvious connections to COVID exist, and we do anticipate that there will be some rebound from these numbers going forward. We have new bonus funding available through HB3 that incentivizes K-12 districts to prioritize college, career, and military readiness. And this could stimulate promising strategies and practices going forward. And I know we'll have an opportunity to hear or ask a little more about that from our commissioners coming up later this morning. That said, the students who did not matriculate may now be considered opportunity youth, and we need to do our best to make sure that the doors and pathways back into education and training are open to them. On the workforce side, the next slide, you'll see messaging that we hear across the state. In this example, our colleague Tamara Atkinson at Workforce Solutions Capital Area notes the mismatch between the education levels of unemployed residents and available jobs, something that we hear from other workforce boards, economic development corporations, and chambers. This set of stakeholders is a powerful resource for institutions and learners alike. And we'll get to hear more about this afternoon with stories from 3 regions in Texas who are collaborating to streamline education to employment pathways. Now for the other scary slide. This is another one we're keeping our eye on. We know there's been unprecedented federal support for both K-12 and higher education in response to COVID, but that support has an expiration date in the very near future. The fact remains that support from the state has never really recovered from the cuts made in 2008. We have a unique opportunity to examine what can be done and to make a case for the state to level up the support for the strategies that work. We truly believe that there's an undeniable reliance on education to maintain and grow the state's economy. Therefore, we need to talk about the state's role in making that happen. And we don't talk about state aid very much. Finally, we have a couple of timely peeks into public perception and how it may be changing. This slide shows that there is a slight increase happening in public perception of higher ed's value. This comes from a new survey of 1,000 registered voters by the Winston Group. It's a national survey that was conducted for the American Council on Education. Still, obviously, these are not numbers to celebrate, but there's lots of work to do, but there is movement heading in the right direction here. For a Texas perspective, we have a hot off the press chart showing detail from polling conducted by WPAI for the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and Texas Higher Education Foundation that connects to this week's release of the statewide strategic plan called Building a Talent Strong Texas. What's most striking for me in this data is that for the greatest number of folks, the top 3 lines on this slide, higher ed's value is absolutely tied to competitive wages, affordability, or employment potential. I can understand this intellectually, but my heart breaks a little bit in seeing it spelled out like this. And this is why we need your help unpacking all of the nuances that come with understanding and considering the value of higher ed. I think you can tell I'm an optimist about most things. Even in looking at the scary slides, I can see the assets that we have, that our students bring, and our ability to work with the power of collective effort. I believe that the promise of American higher education is glorious, but it is inequitably available and attainable. And I believe that those lesser named benefits like better health, advancement of knowledge, culture, art, and an educated citizenry should be more greatly prized. And so, this is what is at the heart of the conversation today. What is the value of higher education? Who gets to determine that? How do we measure it? And what are the implications for all of us, individually and collectively? We've curated a program of speakers and voices, and we're so excited to share them and learn with all of you today. As you know, the summit is not meant to be a single event, but rather an inflection point, a catalyst for new collaboration, and an invitation to work together to address the challenges and expand the successes found throughout students' education and career pathways. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us today. And now it's my pleasure to welcome a friend and one of my amazing bosses, Dora Anverde, to introduce the next section of the program. Welcome, Dora.
Thank you, Kristin. And I think I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the amazing work that Kristin and her team are doing. So I think a round of applause is well deserved. Thank you. So thank you again, Kristin, and good morning, everyone. I am Dora Anverde, and it is my privilege to be serving as the vice chair of the Trellis Foundation board. But I also had the honor of being a founding board member of the Trellis Foundation board. So when we began thinking about the foundation's mission and vision in 2017, our first thoughts were, of course, about students. What do they need to be successful? What strengths can they build on? What will the future look like for them? We quickly realized that the future of our communities and our state depends on serving students well and being able to understand, but not assume, what will work best for them. So for today's summit, we wanted to share what we've heard in this moment directly from students that are being served through some of the amazing nonprofit organizations and institutions across our state. This brief video captures and reflects student voices and visions for the future. It is why we're all here and why we stay engaged and optimistic about the future of Texas. I hope you enjoy meeting these Texas students and working learners. Thank you for attending today.
One word that earning a bachelor's and certificate means to me is everything.
Success.
I am grateful.
Elevation.
Dream.
It would honestly have to be relief.
Planning.
Reawakening.
Empowerment.
I want to say kind of like relief. It's a relief.
This is something that I had to do to ensure my future.
The fact that I want to be successful in life and I don't want to have to spend a lot of money.
I'm available more for the family versus before I didn't have much time because I was always working. It has worked in my advantage, especially when you have you're trying to multitask your family.
It helps you feel better about yourself and it makes you feel like, you can do anything.
You're gonna make so many connections, so many memories, and you're getting an education all at the same time, so.
I think it's really just knowledge for knowledge's sake. I think it really kind of helps frame how you view the world, right? How you move through the world is different when you have that deeper level of knowledge and understanding about the way things work and why things work the way they do.
Going to school and working a full-time job, I had to rearrange my work schedule around my college schedule.
One of the main challenges has been the new technology and everything online.
The challenges I have encountered are being able to time manage. I'm a single mom, and then also I am a nurse tech, so I have to still work and make sure everybody is taken care of like a mom, and also still have to be 100% while at work.
The challenges that I encountered was work life and also my daughter's school. At the time I had 2 jobs. I was working at Texas A&M and I was also working at Lowe's. And so in between those jobs, and then my classes was from 1 to 4. And then in between that, I would have to leave to go pick up my daughter from school because she got out at 3. But then also while I was picking her up, I was a Zoom call. So I was like still in class while I was having to go get her.
Most importantly, I was a dad. I wanted to, frankly, set a good example. I didn't, really want to have that conversation when he graduated from high school about, well, you didn't go to college, Dad.
Being a college student on top of being a high school student, the struggle I have is, time management and figuring out what separates my academics from my social life. Sometimes that mixes a lot, especially because you're not just held at the standards of a high school student. You're held much higher as a college student.
Being the oldest in the group, the younger students do have higher expectations of the older people in the class. Working with Project Unity has given me a lot of support in the areas of food for my family, gas.
Roscoe is very good about accommodating to your learning styles, which is hard having so many students and everybody learning in different ways.
Working with Upgrade has been fantastic. They've helped me with my bus passes, with the bus routes, just helped with websites, with tutoring.
The biggest way that San Antonio Cafe College has helped me is in the scholarships that they provide. And so I was able to obtain 3 scholarships, and they've helped me along the way, guiding me through school as well.
If I were a college president, I would advocate for books and study halls.
Tutoring resources, particularly for people that are doing the online programs.
Diversity in education.
More involvement from the professors within their students' activities, so the professors check in once in a while.
One thing that I would change to make sure that people like myself would be more successful would be college more affordable.
What I would want to make sure that learners knew is the fact that there's not just one path to getting your degree anymore.
Just let people know that there is no right or wrong, or there's no perfect time to become a student. You should just go for it.